Good afternoon. This is Mark Massari. I'm here with Israeli Wing Chun, the Krav Maga program here in Rochester, New York. We're going to talk to you a little bit about some of the different techniques and the concepts and theories of Krav Maga. And we're also going to talk a little bit about our program that I have for opening branches. So I have an idea for, I've been doing instructor certifications for probably about 10 years, where I come and train other instructors in the system that I do, and they run with the program in their area. One of the problems that we've had with it is that we have either there's a high monthly fee for it, or that they don't have the money to come and do a multi-day training. So, but now that we've had some experience running instructor trainings and teaching in a traditional way, we've actually streamlined it. So now what we can do, what we're charging is the fee that we're charging is actually a training package. So what you're getting for what you're paying is not just a fee. You're actually paying for training. So if you break that fee up, I mean, it depends, whatever your budget is, you can make that work for you. If all you have to be a regular student, I just had somebody recently contact me from outside the area, and they said, hey, how much is this to train? Who do you know that can train me in Krav Maga? And I told them, really, what we got going is a lot better than what they have in their area. So unfortunately, if you're going to go to a studio, you're going to be paying a lot. You're probably anywhere from $100 to $200 a month, and that's without private training. That's just traditional class instruction. You're in with a whole bunch of students. You don't have any private time with the instructor, and it's a very high cost program. So what we offer is we have a program so that you're paying for private training. All right, so the package we have is $15,000. That sounds like a lot, but basically if you were to split that between 3 or 4 different people, it's very cheap. Also, it's not an upfront. You don't have to pay it lump sum. You can pay it off progressively as you train, okay? You can't open the studio until that program is paid for. That's our lifetime package for branches, but like I said, you can split that up with 3 or 4 different people, and you can also can earn this money back. This is just investment into your training program. I've probably spent over $100,000 in training, going to Israel, training with different Krav Maga organizations around the United States, training Kung Fu organizations, being at trade shows, building a business, all these different things that I've done. There's been lots of money spent. So what this does is, one of the hardest things, if you want to become a martial arts instructor, okay, if you want to become let's say you want to become a doctor, you have to go to regular school, you have to get a 4-year degree, then you have to go to medical school, and then you have to do 2 more years of residency. So at the end of the day, you're looking at 8 to 10 years of training before you all of a sudden can become a doctor, and then you start practice. That is traditional in the martial arts, except for the fact that there's no set time. The first degree black belt, when you get a first degree black belt after about 3 to 5 years, you are competent self-defense for yourself. It doesn't necessarily mean you have any teaching abilities, and you definitely don't necessarily have permission to start a school across the street from your teacher, because that would be considered competition. So if you approach a martial arts school, like I've had people approach me through the years and say, look, I'm so-and-so years old, within the next 2 to 3 years I'd like to open a school, can you help me do that? Most people would say no. I've said yes to that. Sometimes that has burned me, but mostly what I've done is by certifying other instructors, I've helped spread the program and be able to have more people train in self-defense. So what we're talking about is, if you want to get involved in the instructor program, you can actually make money. You can earn while you learn, okay? So we're looking for probably about 4 or 5 schools in the Rochester area. We're also going to be looking to have schools in every major city. All right, so I wanted to tell you a little bit about what Krav Maga is, so don't touch that dial. So whether you're interested in just being a regular student or you want to start a studio, I can help you out. So let's talk about being a student. Let's say you're from out of the area, okay? Now, typically, martial arts, if you're going to join a martial arts program, the farthest you want to drive for martial arts is 10 to 15 minutes. Beyond that, you're not going to go to the school. So now, the thing that's changed in 2020 is, because of the COVID virus, people started looking, and also because of technology, it started actually before the COVID virus, people are starting to look at, I don't want to leave my house. I don't want to go to the gym. I want to train right from my living room. You see that with the Peloton bikes. You see that with, Nordic Track's got new treadmills. They have live workouts on them. There's another thing called Mirror. All right, all these things started coming out technology-wise this year, but also COVID virus brought this idea that, hey, you know what? We can get the same education from a distance. So in the martial arts world, you do need some hands-on, but if you're from out of the area, let's say you're 3-4 hours away, you could start training with me privately, okay? I charge $50 a private, that's a 30-minute private. So if you wanna do one private a week and you're in the instructor program or the student program, that'll run you about $200 a month. The basic thing is, let's say you're a student for 5 years, and then you're like, hey, I wanna open a school now. Then you start from that point at that $15,000 mark, working off the training. But if you decide the first day you come to me, you've never had a lesson, like I had a student, Sean, one time, the first training he ever did with me was a 5-day instructor certification in Kung Fu. So that's how he broke into training with me. He had already been training a little bit. If you already got a fitness background or a martial arts background or business background or a combination of any of those, I can help you get up to speed fast, okay? Just with starting training online, number one. Number two, coming to a multi-day course, okay? Let's say you're 3 hours away. You could probably come 1 day a week for a couple months. If let's say you're 6 or 10 hours away, you might want to take a flight here and spend 2 to 3 days, in consolidated training. In fact, you can even bring your team. You can fill up a car with your guys that are going to start the studio, let's say in New York City. That's a 7-hour drive from Rochester. And you could drive it down here with all 7 guys, and I'll spend Sunday night, Monday, all day Monday, Tuesday evening, and all day Wednesday with you, give you about 30 hours of training, and send you on your way with some initial certifications that will give you some permissions to start earning money. Now you get 10 students, now you're gonna be pulling in $1,000 a month income. Now you're making $1,000 a month, you're only paying me $200 a month. So you see, you're already making money. You've been in the martial arts for only a few weeks, okay? There's an old saying that says, to be a Sifu, you just need to be a few moves ahead of your students. I started teaching martial arts when I was only about 5 years into the martial arts. I started as a teenager. By the time I was 22, I actually had a kid on the way, and so I got permission from my Sifu to begin to teach in the Albany area, and I've been running schools ever since. I'm now in my 40s, so I've been running martial arts schools for over 20 years. So there's a lot of pros and cons. Advertising, how to set up a curriculum, what's the best way to run a class, how long should the class be, how do I teach kids versus how do I teach adults. All these things that are things that I've actually struggled with, and I can help you, navigate through some of that as you start your studio. Here's another thing. If you're business-minded like myself, it's kind of like, why rent when you can own? You know what I mean? That's the way I always look at it, okay? Why go and pay somebody to train? If you know that this is something you want to do, you could become an owner. But what if you don't want to teach the classes? No problem. You could still own the business, and you could hire somebody to teach you. So with that, I'm just going to say, leave it like that. For as little as $200 a month, you could be in the instructor program from day one. And you could wait to start your studio until you're comfortable. Usually it'll be a few weeks to a few months of training online, followed by coming and spending an intensive time block of training. Okay, enough so that you can go back and run a course. Now, this is not just something martial arts guys do. This is something done in the military, in law enforcement. A lot of times, I was in the military for 12 years, and I was in law enforcement for 7. And what they would do is they would say, hey, there's an instructor level course for firearms, or there's an instructor level course for this. And they would say, we need to send somebody to go down there. They would go down to the course, they'd study the course, they'd come back, and they teach everybody at the home unit. So this has been done for a long time, for years and years and years. My Krav Maga instructor, Nirman Man, he would actually do 2-week courses for special forces units from internationally. They would fly into Israel, they'd spend 2 weeks crash course in combatives, and then they'd forward deploy to the field. Or they'd go home and teach the units what he taught them. So the program that we have, I've trained with probably about 5 or 6 different organizations in Krav Maga. I've been certified under about 3 of them. I've been doing Kung Fu since almost 30 years, 27 years, okay? So I've come up with what I call my own personal recipe, and let me just tell you a little bit about Krav Maga. So in Krav Maga, we're looking at striking major points, okay? So this is Bob here, all right? This represents a bad guy. Let me make him a little taller for me. All right, so Bob is a problem for me, okay? Big, strong guy. Now, I'm a smaller guy compared to Bob, all right? What am I gonna do to Bob to affect him, all right? I want to hit soft target areas, right? Eyes, right? So we're going to teach you eye strikes, right? We're going to teach you punch in the nose. We're going to teach you throat strikes, okay? ear clap, right? Headbutt. All these things are things that Krav Maga teaches because you're the smaller individual working against a larger individual. You don't want to waste your time punching the chest, okay? You don't want to waste your time kicking the body, all right? Because this guy, if he's very strong and you're not, you're going to be just like a little kid fighting a big grown-up man, okay? So you want to hit soft target areas. You want to strike. If you're going to kick, you're going to kick the groin. If you're going to strike, you're going to strike the eyes, all right? Let's talk about blocks, all right? Now, every single martial arts system has different types of blocks, okay? There's a whole series of blocks you learn the names. Now, I've been trained, the thing about our system that's really awesome, okay, is we have all three components of self-defense, okay? In the military law enforcement world, you have tactical, okay? What that usually includes is fighting force on force with weapons, okay? It includes just the tactics of how you safely move through a building, how you know, like if you were getting your house broken into, how you actually would safely navigate through your own house, okay, without endangering other family members, without putting yourself at risk to the bad guy who's already in there, okay? Active shooter situation, that's more tactical stuff, okay? Usually that involves a weaponized response, which doesn't necessarily mean guns. It could also mean even a pocket knife, or even, you know, somebody's in your house and the only thing you can find is some big heavy, you know, something big and heavy, and, you know, you come around the corner, there's a bad guy, a stranger in your house, and you whack him over the head with it, okay? And now your family is safe. Your little kids in the room are safe. So teaching you stuff like that, that's the tactical aspect of self-defense. The second aspect is the traditional aspect, okay? The traditional aspect is what we call where my background traditionally is Wing Chun Kung Fu, okay? I started that in 1993 with my Sifu, who actually, believe it or not, this is where it's like full circle. Here I am in my Sifu studio 27 years later. This is his wooden dummy, all right? Some of this equipment is mine, Bob is mine, this is mine, this bag behind me, but like a lot of it's his. We have a boxing ring here, so he's teaching on 3 or 4 days a week, and I'm teaching 3 or 4 days a week, and we're collaborating together. We're sharing the rent. So I have a much larger facility, just starting out the gate in a new city than I would have otherwise. So, but anyways, the traditional side of martial arts has to do with obviously traditions, right? Concepts and theories, the lineage, where your martial art comes from, who your teacher's teacher, different names in their original language, right? All these different things. A lot of great stuff. Usually it has to do with history. You know, there's a historical aspect to it, studying the culture of the martial art. Like Kung Fu, Wing Chun Kung Fu comes from China, so we wear the Chinese uniforms in Kung Fu class, and it's really a cool program, all right? So that's what most martial arts is, karate, taekwondo, okay? You know, people ask me, what's the difference between karate, taekwondo, and Kung Fu? I usually tell them, well, karate comes from Japan, Kung Fu comes from China, taekwondo comes from Korea, it's geography, all right? Well, what about Krav Maga? Krav Maga is from Israel. So the thing is, in all of these systems, you have a punch. In all of these systems, you have a block, all right? So all of these systems, it doesn't matter. They all have different names. You say it in Japanese, it means one thing. You say it in Chinese, it's another thing. English is another thing, all right? The third thing, which is my Krav Maga experience, has to do with the modern reality-based self-defense. What I mean by that is, what are you going to confront right now when you go out there on the street and you're dealing with a bad guy, okay? That's what Krav Maga has to deal with, okay? We're not trying to make you ready for the MMA ring. We're trying to make you so that you can actually, we're not trying to necessarily even make you a high-level black belt. We're just trying to help you get trained to protect yourself in a life and death situation, all right? Somebody pulls a knife on you. Somebody pulls a weapon on you, a gun, okay? What do you do, okay? So all of these three aspects are brought together in one system, which I call is Rally Wing Chun, or, you know, for those of you just common language, Krav Maga. You know, so people are like, oh, you teach Krav Maga? Yes. Why? Because Krav Maga comes from Israel. It's modern application. There's stress test involved in it. What I mean by stress is you learn a technique. Now we put you in stress. We bring other people into play. We make your blood pump first, and then you see if you can do the block. Almost every system has circular attacks, like if I'm going to come from an angle, right? This to hit Bob. This is something that this is something that you need to know how to block. What am I gonna do? So in Krav Maga, we have a technique like this. This technique exists in karate, taekwondo, kung fu, all these systems. In kung fu, we would call this gansao, high gansao, right? Boom. So what you do, if a guy swings at you like this guy, right? You're gonna drive forward like this. Your arm is gonna be straight. Your fingers are gonna be together, all right? And you're gonna simultaneously throw the punch, all right? So this guy swings at you, bang, all right? Also, we have a low block, all right? Same thing, a guy swinging underneath, maybe even with a knife, okay? I got a little knife over here. The same thing, if I come here, or I come here, right? Boom, this might be the same first move. Now we have other procedures that we have to follow because there's a weapon involved, okay? Let's talk about straight line attacks. Guy comes at you straight, punches you, finger strikes, grabs you, all right? Bear hugs you, all these things, you know? I'm gonna come here, boom, I'm gonna grab, the bad guy's gonna grab you. What are you gonna do? How do you get out of it safely? What is the easiest thing that can be done? I'll tell you the problem with most martial arts is they're teaching techniques that are so complicated. It's so complicated, the only thing that I used to say, the only thing you learn in the first 3 years of martial arts training is how awesome your instructor is. Because he's teaching you this technique, and he's teaching you that technique, and there's all these different things you're learning. You're like, oh man, I can't even remember this stuff, okay? Real self-defense. When you're being taught the right way, within a few weeks, a few months of regular classes, you should feel like you can protect yourself better. It should not take 3 to 5, 6, 7 years. The reason you might feel like that, and I've talked to people who've studied 3, 4 years, even got their black belt in traditional systems, and they still can't defend themselves, okay? So what I believe is by blending these 3 worlds, the tactical world, the traditional world, and the modern self-defense world, all into one system, okay, we're giving you the best of everything. All right, so let's talk about straight line attacks. Boom, a punch is the same thing as a grab, is the same thing as a two-handed grab, is the same thing as a push. All right, these are all straight line attacks. All right, so instead of teaching you 100 different moves, we have this one mover. This is called vertical sweep. All right, so I'll show you again on this side. All right, notice my body is moving off to the side. So this means something is coming at you straight, right? Boom. What you're doing, you're moving your body to the side. You're getting out of the way of the train coming at you, right? Doesn't matter which way. Second thing you're doing is you're using your hands to navigate and push that thing over to the side. Push that thing over to the side. In Kung Fu, we call this technique jumsao, okay? Elbow sinking hand. In Krav Maga, we just call it sweep, okay? Vertical sweep. It's easier to learn because it's English, all right? Is it cool? Do you get extra points from me if you know the Kung Fu name? Sure, I'd be happy, right? I've learned all the Kung Fu names, so I'd like you to learn them all too, but you don't need to know all these names to 1, defend yourself, and 2, to teach somebody else how to defend yourself. This is why it ends up taking 20, 25 years of training before you can be called a grandmaster, because there's so much to learn. So let's talk about throat choking. Somebody grabs you from the front and starts choking you. What are you gonna do? All right, I hear all this stuff like, I'm gonna hit him like this, then I'm gonna do this, then I'm gonna do this, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. That's all fine and good, okay? Well, I should say maybe it's not all fine and good, but one thing you have to do is you have to get rid of, this is your airway. So the longer this is being held, your brain is not able to think, you're not gonna be able to defend yourself for very long. If you start swinging like this as the guy's holding you, which is probably what most people do, if you're not effectively hitting him, he's gonna choke you out, okay? You're gonna die, okay? Or at least pass out, and then he can do whatever he wants to. So the first thing you have to do is deal with this choke. You have to figure out if he's two-handed choke like this, you're gonna make your hands like little hooks, and you're gonna unplug the choke. You're also gonna drive the knee up, okay? All at the same time. So if I do an abad, he's choking me. Just imagine his arm here. I'm driving the knee, and I'm pulling the hands off my neck. As soon as these thumbs are unplugged from my hands, I can drive in and begin to strike and use my combatives. So that was a little bit of a Krav Maga lesson, also a little bit about starting a studio. I believe that with all the rioting that's going on, all the looting that's going on, the bad guys, no matter how many gun laws we're making, the bad guys still seem to have guns and knives. The bad guys still seem to find drugs, no matter how illegal drugs are, okay? So what I say to you is, as a concerned, law-abiding citizen, you need to be able to know how to defend yourself and also your loved ones, okay? So I think it's something just like everybody should know CPR, just like everybody should know what to do if a building starts on fire and you're trapped inside the building. I really believe that to not prepare yourself with a little bit of self-defense is a big mistake. And that's why I would like to see locations in every big city, okay? It's super affordable. All it takes is some training and some hard work, and you can not just only learn some self-defense, but you could run a self-defense program in your area. All right? My name is Sifu Mark, and this has been another self-defense class.